What's up guys, Thomas from FT86 Speed Factory, and today we're tossing out the old factory intake. We're going to be installing one from Grimmspeed. Now we've had the stock intake on our car for like ever. It's been a long time. So we're finally upgrading it with an air intake system from Grimmspeed because it doesn't require that you take the bumper off. You don't have to get a tune, and they say, or they at least claim, that it gives 10 horsepower, which, I mean, maybe to the flywheel, and when it gets to your wheels, it's gonna be even less, but no tune, simple bolt-on, and 30 minutes to an hour, and you get some more horsepower, and hopefully some nice induction noises as well. Now quickly before we get started, I wanted to briefly touch on the compatibility between different years of FRS BRZs and 8.6. Now most intake systems were made for the 2013 to 2016 FRS and BRZ. They're at least based on that model. But in 2017, especially for the manual transmissions, you added this red intake, and they slightly changed this airbox shape and the inlet tube. So things got a little bit different for some aftermarket intake systems. Now this really doesn't affect most aftermarket air intakes because they automatically replace the stock airbox, obviously, but sometimes they don't always replace this part, the inlet tube that goes to the throttle body. And if they reuse this, you're probably not going to get the same alignment and correction and proper seal if a 2017 inlet hose is going for something that's made for like a 2013 or 2016. So just double check that if you're going for a 2017 manual transmission and the aftermarket intake you're replacing doesn't include an aftermarket inlet tube, you may not get a proper seal. And if you have any questions, you can always email us at sales@ft86speedfactory.com. Now the tools you need for this install are going to be a flathead and a Phillips screwdriver. You need a pair of pliers, you're going to need a 10mm socket, ratchet, and an extension. Then you're going to need a 3 and 4 millimeter Allen wrench. I also highly recommend that you get this 8mm screwdriver socket thing. This is the right size for all the hose clamps you're going to be taking on and off, and it's going to save you a ton of work than using a flathead screwdriver. Now the first part of this install is going to be removing the factory sound generator tube. This thing's pretty big and it takes up a bunch of space, so once it's gone, you're going to free up a bunch of space in your engine bay. It's going to be a lot less cluttered. Now to do this, you're going to remove the hose clamp on the airbox. Then there are two 10mm bolts holding on this big old thing in the center. You can take that out. Then there's a couple zip ties that are going to be holding the smaller tubes to the engine bay. You can just pull up on those and those will disconnect. Then you can yank the tube out from the bottom of the firewall. This actually leads to the passenger footwell, and you can dig down in there because you're actually going to have to cap that with an included rubber cap to make sure that no water comes out into the passenger side footwell. And with all those things disconnected, the whole assembly will come out in one piece. All right, so now we can start removing the airbox itself, and there's 3 bolts we need to remove. One here, and then one towards the bottom next to the oil cap. Then you can disconnect the map sensor connection harness pit, and then take out the PCV fitting with a pair of pliers on the intake inlet hose. Then loosen the clamp that's holding the intake tube connected to the throttle body. Then you can pull the entire airbox assembly out in one piece. Now with the factory airbox out, there's going to be 2 little rubber isolator bushings that we're going to take off and put on our new Grimmspeed airbox. Now to finish prepping the Grimmspeed airbox, we're going to be using the included rubber gasket material. There's going to be 3 pieces, a long one, a short one, and a very, very short one. The long piece goes to the oval opening, the biggest opening, that goes to the snorkel. The slightly shorter gasket material, that one goes to the inlet tube opening, that's a big circle. Then the short piece, the very short piece, that one goes to the airbox lid. Now with the Grimmspeed airbox prepped and ready to go, we're going to throw it into the engine bay, but make sure that you get the rubber gasket, the oval part, tucked into that snorkel to make sure it's an airtight seal. Once that's done, you can thread in the 2 factory airbox bolts. Just make sure that you leave these bolts loose because we need a little wiggle room to install the rest of the intake. Now at this point, we're gonna take the little rubber grommet that's included in the kit and we're gonna cut one side and we're gonna open that up and wrap it around the factory map sensor harness, and then we're gonna slide that into the little circle part so it's an airtight seal for the little harness to go into the airbox. Now at this point, if you've been following along with the Grimmspeed manufacturer's installation guide, which you can find on the product page in the description on our website for the Grimmspeed Intake, if you hit the additional button, you can go and download the PDF for the full install guide. I kind of changed the order around a little bit at this point because it says to put the map sensor into the intake tube and then put it in the airbox, but I found out that there's not really a lot of room, so it's way easier if you just put the inlet tube in first and then you drop the map sensor in, then you can reconnect the harness and you're good to go. All right, so now it's time to put the air filter on, and actually they require a specific measurement on how far you're gonna put the filter on the intake tube to make sure you have the proper air fuel ratios so everything's congruent with the old ECU tune so you don't have to reflash it and do anything special. So that's a measurement of 1 inch from the end of the filter to the flat edge of the map sensor. Now the final things we have left to do is to reinstall the PCV valve and then make sure all the clamps are tight and everything's secure. Then we can put on the lid that's held in by a bunch of Allen screws that are included in the kit. So now that this thing is complete, let's go ahead and turn the car on and see what kind of induction noises we get. All right guys, if you have any questions at all about the installation of this Grimmspeed intake or any intakes on our website, feel free to send us an email at sales@ft86speedfactory.com. If you have any simple questions that we talk about in the comments, you can comment those below as well. This is Thomas, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And there's gonna be 3 bolts we're gonna need to remove. There's gonna be 3 bolts, one here on the at the bottom towards the airbox itself. There's gonna be 3